One of our country's leading water management experts says we could be saving billions of litres each year if we adopt his alternative water management plan.
Professor Peter Coombs says the current water plan in Victoria is based on a 100-year-old model that he reckons urgently needs reforming. Professor Coombs is the former Chief Water Scientist for Victoria, as well as the former Water Infrastructure Advisor to the United Nations. And Peter joins us now from Newcastle. Peter Coombs, good morning.
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Just in the interest of full disclosure, this report was commissioned by the company Kingspan Environmental, which is offering to help with some of the solutions you've come up with. But let's start with what you see as the major flaws, I guess, with the water supply system, the water maintenance system in Victoria at the moment.
Okay, well, we've done really well with water management over 100 years, but it's turned into a mostly supply side solution, whereas buildings drive most of the impacts on water resources and environments in urban areas. So we actually need to focus on the source of the issues we have to manage to actually have a better chance of meeting the solutions.
And making it sustainable. And Victorians will hate to hear this, but you're suggesting they look north to New South Wales, to Sydney in particular. You reckon Sydney has it pretty much worked out. What is Sydney doing right in terms of addressing the water problem?
Well, Sydney's got the basics policy, which is about targets for energy and water performance on buildings. Thereby, they actually get at the source of the water resources challenge at the source, at the buildings, rather than trying to manage it only by building more desal plants or whatever else. So because they're doing that, they're saving a lot of money, and our recent economic analysis of historical data, so not models, since it started, has actually shown it's saving about 90 billion litres a year at the moment, and it's saving of the tune of just under $1 billion a year if you count all the costs.
They're big figures. So when you talk about rainwater harvesting, is this just more houses having water tanks? What else are we talking about?
The water efficient buildings, so water efficient appliances, water efficient behaviours, rainwater tanks. Some people are choosing better landscaping over more water demanding facilities. But basically having a holistic strategy at the building household scale makes a massive contribution. And it also means that less water's taken from rural Australia, because most city catchments get their water from rural Australia to supply urban areas. So it's actually a systems problem that we can solve by acting at the source.
Acting at the source, and we do know we don't need to be told about the tremendous water problems being faced by many parts of country Australia, particularly in the southeast at the moment. So I guess the final question for you, Peter, is what are the consequences in Victoria, and I guess it applies to other states as well, if more effort isn't made in terms of focusing on water efficient appliances, water efficient buildings? What are the consequences?
Absolutely, Michael. Well, the costs of water will continue to rise, because of the way we're managing water, that'll mean greater impacts on decline of our waterways, and either more carbon emissions or taking more water from rural areas. Things that we can avoid by having modern at source, multi-scale solutions. There will need to be some regulatory changes and some commitment from the Victorian government and other governments to recognise this opportunity.
Providing plenty of food for thought for us this morning. Peter Coombs in beautiful Newcastle there. Thanks for joining us on News Breakfast.
Thank you, Michael.